Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Dr. Cammy and Karen Go Keto, where we are working on transitioning from a standard American diet and binge eating on ultra processed carbs for me to ketogenic, low carb, carnivore diet with some ketosis in there. I am just thrilled to report that I got my keto mojo at our conference in August. I started tracking my ketones and I'm doing some different things in my life to get myself into ketosis. This morning it was zero point 0.8 on my machine.
Oh, wow.
Yesterday, what?
I said, "Oh, wow." So it was pretty high for
Yeah,
morning.
this morning. And it was 1.1 yesterday. And the day before it was zero point 0.9. So it's coming because before that, the highest I had seen was zero point 0.7. And so I'm doing a lot of different things in my life to make this happen. And it's been a very active process getting myself there. So, yeah, great to report that. Happy.
Yeah, yeah. So, I do not track my ketones. I'm pretty sure I'm not in ketosis. I've been having too many carbs, but I have cut out the Diet Coke for quite a while now. But I still don't have a great calendar. So I really am just going to have to buckle down and make it important it's something that I actually have to spend time on contemplating how I'm gonna make it work, because if I don't contemplate how I'm gonna make it work, I'm not gonna make it work. And eating breakfast in the morning works to some degree, but there are some things about that I'd like to change. A, it's expensive, and B, I still add a little bit of potato in my meal, and certainly I can take the potatoes out. I've done that before. Doesn't change the cost of the breakfast, so it would still be expensive. But I have this thing that the morning is a good time for me because my mom is almost always asleep, and so I don't have the demands of doing anything, taking care of my mom, and that way I have the freedom of spending an hour on my own, basically.
Right. And we were talking about it off camera about maybe you taking some time then to provide yourself with good self care in other ways other than a meal. I know it's so relaxing to get out and to have somebody serve you and bring you warm food and to feel like you're taken care of and those kinds of things. We've talked about that with you. And I think a lot of us relate to that. But we were also mentioning how there's a lot of things in those foods that we don't know what is in there, and vegetable oils and carbs and things that they're sneaking in there when you're at home cooking your steak. It's in butter or, exactly what's going in there.
Yeah, I think maybe just transitioning to the steak is just an issue too. It's not like I've ever been a steak eater. I did think maybe I would transition to doing a breakfast and egg bake. You know how we used to eat egg bake all the time?
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
just not, I know that if I make an egg bake, I'll eat it for one day and then the second day I'll warm it up and I won't like it so much. So I think I would like to create a plan maybe where I make it, I figure out recipes that I can just make them one at a time. You know what
Or
I
you could
mean? Like,
freeze it. You could make it and
no, I
freeze
don't
it.
I don't like the texture once it's cooked to reheat it.
Oh, I loved it. That worked for me.
Yeah, I feel like it's just too dense for me after.
Well, if you're hungry enough, you might eat it.
I know. Well, that's for sure. So I'm gonna play around, but I definitely want to get that. I want to get that under my belt today.
Yeah, so what's been helping me, the things that I've done to change is one, I started a meal plan the day before that's very consistent and regular. Two, the reason I started a meal plan is because I have an eating disorder coach. Her name is Bonnie. She's absolutely wonderful. She's been abstinent for decades. She used to weigh 300 pounds and now she weighs like 120. She's a very good example for me. She has an addicted mind that thinks exactly like mine does, and she's been through it. So she's been very helpful for me. Three, I send my meal plan to her and to Jeff every night, and I'm counting my macros. I pay attention gram wise to how much protein, how much fat, and how much carbs I'm doing. I try to stay under 20 grams of carbs a day, but sometimes I'm like 26, 30, 33. I think one day I was like 40 or something. So I'm trying really, but if I'm 40 one day, I'll drop down and try to be less than 20 the next day. 4, I'm weighing and measuring all my food. That may be something that I might have to do forever. I don't know. I'm just doing it for now. It's been very helpful because I'm not a big steak fan either. And so what I do is I take 1 tablespoon and I put a little bit of ketchup and a little bit of the, um, which has some sugar in it. And I put a little bit of the barbecue sauce, the spicy Sweet Baby Ray's or whatever, spicy barbecue sauce. And I just make it 1 tablespoon between the 2 of them. And I put it on top. And you would think 1 tablespoon's not enough. I'm like, this isn't going to be enough, but it's enough. It's enough to give me just a little bit of that extra flavor that keeps it going for me.
Mhm.
And those have been the main things that I've been doing that's been really, really helpful. Having an attitude that I am a vicious warrior about this, a warrior, like, Mel Gibson and Braveheart. Like, that's what I think of when it comes to like eating right. And I want to put the F word in front of the warrior, effing warrior. And so at home, that's what I say to myself out loud, and my cat hears me. But you have to balance that too on the other side with being gentle and loving to yourself too, and giving yourself some grace when you're not perfect.
When you are doing the ketchup and barbecue sauce, is that like you're putting that on top of the steak? That's like a steak sauce for you?
Yeah.
Are you using the Sweet Baby Ray's that's sugar-free?
Yes, but it has sucralose in it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think it was Dr. Ben Bickman was gonna do a video on allulose, so maybe he's got some wisdom on maybe the benefits or detriments of allulose. I'll have to go check that on, he's got a great he's just, got some great, videos in YouTube. He is a biochemist at Brigham Young University in Utah and does a lot of research, and he's a professor, so he teaches, and he just loves life, and he's got a lot of interesting things about ketosis, diabetes. I think he's got just, I don't know, but, 20, 30 videos and, like, a whole course on insulin. And IQ, I think, is the name of one of his YouTube
Yes,
channels.
yes. So that's a
And
great suggestion, Karen.
and he's fun to listen to, too. He's a good speaker because he's a teacher.
Oh, good. I'll have to check him out. Yeah. So the other thing with me is the thing about sweet. Karen and I were talking about this off camera, and I'm not quite sure what to do about sweet. I still want sweet. I haven't been craving it really bad. I'm really afraid because it's been like 2 weeks now. And Karen's like, that's the story that you give yourself is that, in 2 weeks, you're going to want to binge again. And she's right. It's a story that I make up. And the other thing that we talked about was having maybe a little sweet after a meal, how her mom likes to do that. She likes to have a little sweet, something sweet after she's done eating. And that might be something that I want to end on. So I do have some allulose. I think that would be the good way to go for something sweet. And I have some some whipped cream that I made up. And we talked about taking just a half an ounce of nuts and cutting the nuts up and sprinkling it on top of that, or maybe just a couple of blueberries or a couple of strawberries. So I don't know. That feels like a really slippery slope for me, the sweet part of it. So I'm watching that very closely.
Yeah, well, how many days, because you've been in ketosis now for at least 3 days. If
I think it's
when
been
you
about,
had your how long?
well, 3 days. It depends on what is ketosis, right? If you're over one,
Point 0.5. Point 0.5 is what I've heard is a good number.
yeah, some people use 1, some people use 0.5, but I think you're right. If I say over 0.5, it's been about 3 or 4 days.
So, you should do you should do the ketosis reading again this afternoon
Yeah,
because you
I
did it
will.
this morning. The other ones, the high ones, it'll be interesting because I think I've understand that usually your ketosis numbers are lower in the morning, especially if you're doing exogenous ketones. If you're exercising and that sort of thing, then that number should go up in the middle of the day.
Yes. And the other thing I'm doing is I am taking some external ketones through Jeff Cotterman's lab, his tri-system lab. It's called Ignite 5.
Mhm.
I take one of those in the morning and one of those at night. And the other thing I started too was the Audacious Keto Start. I started taking that. Excuse me.
Yeah, I think Audacious is Dr. Chafee's company. I think that he has an interest in that, and it's pretty tasty, I think. We got it when we went to the Low Carb USA in 2023, and it's good. I give that to my mom sometimes.
It's a little too sweet for me. I wish it wasn't so sweet, but it seems to be working. Yeah, so we're doing the deal. And the next video, maybe we could talk about some of the physical symptoms I'm having as I'm noticing that I'm going into ketosis and what it feels like.
Yeah. You could try putting your Audacious into whipped cream. I think I did that for my mom when she wasn't drinking very well.
Oh,
Yeah, so you get your sweet whipped cream at the same time as you get your Audacious in there. I don't know if it's still as effective because you're not actually dissolving it. I'm not sure what the mechanism is that is required to actually get the benefits of it.
okay. All right. Well, sounds good.